Okay, hello everybody, welcome. Let's get this show on the road. Welcome to this meeting of SACRE. I'm Councillor Bob Webb. I'm our Exec Member for Children, Young People and Education on the City of York Council. I am going to do a round of introductions from people because online we've got Stephen Pett from RE Today joining us. So Stephen, I hope you can hear us. And I think it makes sense if we just go around so everybody gets to know who everybody else is. So I will start down the end there with Colin. Do you want to introduce yourself, Colin?
Yeah, hi.
Oh yeah, one other thing for those of you who are not used to using the microphones, there is a button in the middle that says mic. Just press it. If it goes green, you're on. Perfect, Colin, off you go.
Back to white, it counted me out. My name is Colin Lewison and I'm here representing York Humanists.
I'm Councillor Sarah Wilson and I represent Fishergate Ward and I'm here representing the Labour Party as part of the SACRE.
Good evening, I'm Tarka McKeels. I'm representing Group C. I'm a teacher at Joseph Rowntree School in York.
I'm Tony Lawton. I am a Catholic. I'm on Group A and I'm a retired solicitor and this is my third meeting.
Thank you, Tony.
Hi, I'm Angela Clark to SACRE. Maxine Squire, I'm the LA advisor to SACRE.
Hello, I'm Councillor Emily Knight and I'm a Lib Dem councillor representing rural West York.
I'm Ben Rich. I'm here as part of Group A representing the Jewish faith.
Hi, I'm Imam Amar from York Mosque.
Thank you all, and thank you, Imam, for attending. I know you've not been for a few meetings. Online, we do have a number of people as well. So, Dee, can you say hello?
Hi, I'm Dee Boyle from York Interfaith Group and representing the Unitarians at SACRE.
Thank you, Dee. Joseph?
Hi, thanks, Bob. I'm Joseph Heverdell. I'm Group B, but I'm also an RE teacher at Archbishop Holgate School.
Fine institution, I've heard. And then, Stephen, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, hi, I'm Stephen Pett. I'm one of the advisors at RE Today.
Thank you, Stephen. So, yeah, Stephen's going to be with us for the meeting and is probably going to speak after we talked about the sort of school survey and sneaking into the room quietly at the end is Penny. Penny, do you want to sit down? Do you want to come up here where there's a microphone, Penny? You've missed nothing. We've literally just done a bit of a round of introductions. So do you want to introduce yourself and you know, why you're here?
Thank you. Oh, thank you. A little while since I've done that. I've been online. Penny Siddall. I'm from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, representing that faith here. I have been here for a little bit, but due to circumstances, not lately in person. So,
and it's very good to see you in person, Penny. Thank you for coming along. Okay, we'll move swiftly on to confirm we are quorate, which is a positive because the quoracy is very complicated with this. We have to have various people from different groups and we've managed it. So we're all very happy. Does anybody have, do we have any apologies for absence first? I've had apologies from Karen Vincent, from Mark Jones, from Fleur Kennedy, and from Councillor Rowley. Have we had any other apologies? No? Okay. Declarations of interest. Does anybody wish to declare any specific interests in this night's agenda? No? Okay, that's good. So we have a couple of sets of minutes to approve first, because whilst we talked about the actions at the previous meeting of the last minutes, the May minutes, we couldn't sign them off because we weren't quorate. So we'll go through those first. Does anyone have any matters of accuracy issues around the actions or the minutes of the May meeting? And in your pack, that is starting on page 9. No? You all happy for me to sign that off as an accurate record? Got some vague nods, so I'll take that as a yes. Thank you. And then next we have the last meeting. The last meeting was on the 15th of July. Firstly, again, have we got any matters of accuracy concerns? No? Lovely. In terms of actions from that meeting, one thing I will say is what really helps me is when the actions are clearly labelled at the bottom, because it makes my life a lot easier, but there we go. We did talk about the agreed syllabus, and that is obviously sort of coming up through the agenda today. Is there any other actions that people spotted that they wanted to update on?
There's one action, oh, sorry, Chair. There's one action which was a visit to Joseph Rowntree School, which that was, we'd got a working date of Wednesday, the 8th of October, which unfortunately, and it's entirely my fault, I'd forgotten about the dates. And when TACO contacted me, obviously we hadn't made the arrangements to get SACRE members there, but TACO has very kindly offered a second date of the 26th of November. So if we could confirm the arrangements of who would be taking part in that visit, and then TACO and I can work on putting that in place.
Thank you very much, Maxine. TACO, is there anything you want to say about that in specific? No? Okay. Thank you for organising that. That's really positive. I won't actually be able to attend myself because I'm teaching that day, but I think it's a really valuable exercise with the school visits we've done previously. I think we're quite useful for members to get an insight to what was working in primary schools. I'd really recommend people signing up for that. I don't think we need huge numbers of members, but if you do have an interest, does anyone want to volunteer right now? Councillor Knight? Ben? Anybody else? That's 2 people. That's a good start. And both people were involved in the previous meeting, so that was really helpful. If anybody else really wants to get involved with them, they are worthwhile doing. I think it's a good start. And Maxine, am I right? Are you available on that day too?
Yes, I'll attend. I'll send something out via Ange as well, just to make sure that everybody's had the chance to sign up to that visit.
That's great. Very good. Thank you again, TACO. Is everybody happy that those minutes, I can sign them off? Anyone got a problem with that? No? Good. I'm signing this bit of paper, assuming. I believed you, Councillor Knight.
So since our last meeting, we had an informal conversation, which had some actions out of that. Could we just check that we're, I don't quite know how we do this, given that that meeting was an informal discussion, but can we just check that those actions are being progressed and perhaps adopt them into the minutes for this meeting?
Yeah, we can send something out after this meeting, which provides an update on those actions. And
there have been updates, really. So firstly, one of the things we wanted to talk about is within this meeting, it was about talking about RE teachers and their ability to talk about unity. And that is on the agenda tonight. Separate to that, one of my actions was to work with the mosque, speak to the mosque. I visited the mosque last week. I met with Faisal and I've been to talk to the Imam tonight. So that is progressing as well. And that was about how we get representatives from the mosque into schools, basically, to sort of start those links and embed those links, which I think would be a real positive. I think the longer term ambitions as well, Ben, and I think it's good to raise it the way you did, I think really is how we embed some of what we want in the syllabus moving forward. And hopefully that's something that we can tease out a little bit through discussions tonight. And hopefully Stephen might be able to talk a little bit about what RE today's syllabus looks like and how that might address some of our concerns around community cohesion. Our conversation that we had through that informal meeting was obviously triggered by the huge number of flags that have gone up around the city, for anyone who wasn't aware of what we were talking about. And our response to that and how we can help RE teachers respond to that in schools. Does anybody have anything to add that I've not sort of covered very basically that won't come up later in the agenda? Is that okay? Thank you. Good prompt, Vice Chair. That was helpful. Okay, so that's the formal stuff done with. Now we're going to move on to the school survey. Maxine, can you introduce that, please?
Yeah, sure. So thank you, Chair. As discussed at the previous meeting, the school survey this year has very much focused on the fact that we are in a formal review of the agreed syllabus. So the questions were focused around getting responses from RE teachers about their views of the current agreed syllabus, and also any areas that they felt they needed additional support in. We had, I do apologise that it's tabled today. It's purely that it closed on Friday and the business intelligence team only got it to me today in this form. There was an increase in responses by putting it as an online survey, which, you know, is really good to see. It also encouraged more detailed responses than we've had previously as well. So I think the fact that we put it out as a more focused survey looking for responses around the agreed syllabus actually really engaged people and encouraged them to respond. It's healthy to see that 7 of the 9 secondary schools actually put a response in, which is very positive. And we also saw responses from 18 primary schools. What we know is that a lot more people looked at the survey than necessarily completed it. So that's also very healthy as well. So we know that schools were conscious that it was out there. And we got people viewing it even if they didn't complete it. So that's all positive, and it means that this is definitely the right format to use in the future. And we will next year also put it out through business intelligence as an online survey. So what we got was a lot of support for the current syllabus. When you look at both the comments and also some of the aggregation of the results, that on the whole, the syllabus was felt by teachers that responded to be something that they found helpful and useful. They did suggest some things that they would like to see tweaked around that. But I think one of the things that they are worried about is that process of change from going through a complete revision of the syllabus and the lead-in time to be able to change what's happening in school, I think was one of the things that they were very, very conscious about. I think it does give us a really good insight into the way that schools are using the syllabus and what they feel about it. And as I've said, it also gives some insights into where they may require further support. It's interesting that there was a really strong response that people felt confident in their teaching of RE. And when I've looked at other local authority surveys around this, you don't get anywhere near that response in terms of confidence. So what's very clear is that our teachers do feel that they've got a good handle on how the syllabus supports them to teach RE. So that's a positive thing. I think if we look at some of the demographic data, what it does show is that the majority of teachers who are teaching RE are white British in the city. And so it's interesting that they've asked for further support around teaching other faiths. And again, I think that is possibly reflective of the demographic of teachers in our schools. It's also showing as well that a third of the respondents are equally split between those of no faith and those who express that they've got a Christian faith. So again, when we're looking at that as part of the demographic makeup of the workforce, that's just one of the things that, you know, sort of to also note. It's also interesting to see as well that the majority of the teachers are actually in the younger age demographic as well, if they're teaching RE. That's also, you know, sort of taking on board some of these demographic factors. What they said about core religions that they'd like to see included at each key stage. Christianity and Islam came out as being very, very strong. One respondent actually said they really loved teaching Buddhism from a young age. And they all mentioned things about breadth being the key as well. When we look at what our current syllabus is delivering, there's quite a lot of comments around tweaking it rather than going for a complete overhaul. Seemed to be the majority of what people were feeling, but they also felt that they would really benefit from more curriculum resources to support it. So not just having a syllabus, but also having some supporting resources. I'm going to open it up to Joseph and Taco as our teachers. And Joseph, I appreciate you will be using the Church of England syllabus rather than the locally agreed one. But Taco, you do obviously use the agreed syllabus in what you do, alongside any of the exam syllabuses you use. So I just thought whether this survey reflects your experience.
Yeah, I might just have a little look at it just before the end of the school day, actually. And I reflected on pretty much the same things that you were saying there as well. Having taught the syllabus, we try it. Those of you who come to the school, you'll sort of see, you know, we try and stick as close to it as we can. And what I've really enjoyed, and I put in the survey as well, is the fact that it's kind of a double-edged sword, really. One half is the information that's part of the syllabus. So each topic that you have, there are bullet points as to what you might cover. And I think RE today suggests sort of, you know, you can look at this, you can look at this bit of scripture, or this from this faith. So you have a topic. And within that topic, they sort of suggest which faiths, which directions you might take that topic into. And there's usually, at the top of my head, about, you know, 8 or 9 different bullet points. And then from that, what we did was we sort of took some of those bullet points, and each bullet point we turned into a lesson, essentially. So that we would have a 6-lesson sort of unit topic that we would then teach. It might leave 1 or 2 things out just because we thought it might be difficult, or it was maybe not enough to get out of a lesson. And so we sort of pieced the whole thing together that way now, that we have for Key Stage 3, we teach years 7, 8 and 9 now, rather than doing the GCSE at year 9. We've kind of been able to expand a little bit more, which has actually been really, really nice to get a bit more depth out of all of those topics. And I think that's one of the positive things from my perspective. The double-edged sword part of that is that, of course, there isn't really anything that sort of says this lesson, like something really, really kind of descriptive and prescriptive, and sort of says exactly what we should be trying to do. And from a lesson to lesson, which then kind of means that you could easily attach some resources. And I know that there was something released by NASACRE from the Oak Academy. And it's very different to what the RE today for the current syllabus that we've got. But what was nice about it was just that simple fact that you had 6 lessons, 6 units, and everything was planned out, everything was there, the videos were there, the information were there, the worksheets were there, which is great. I like a little bit of autonomy, so I'd pick and choose bits and bobs, but there's something in between those two I think would be really, really lovely.
Thank you, Taco. Joe. Joseph.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. So Yeah, it's strange. Taco's just said exactly what I was going to say, that I think with us at Archie's only doing the diocese curriculum, I can't really speak from personal experience, but speaking to colleagues across the city, they must have all answered the survey, because that's exactly the kind of thing that I'm hearing. Is this sort of weighing up of depth and breadth, and at sometimes wanting a very descriptive set of sort of bullet points from the syllabus, but at times also wanting a bit of autonomy. And the thing I kind of reflect on is, and I suppose it goes back to this discussion about demographics, is if we do have teachers who are actively pursuing their own faith and are Christian or have no faith, they're going to be more comfortable teaching those and maybe want the autonomy in those spaces. When it comes to things that different faiths that maybe our teachers don't represent, maybe that's where that little bit more prescription can be helpful. I suppose as SACRE members, we have the opportunity to use the sort of expertise in the room to do exactly that.
Thank you, Joseph. I think that's something that we've been sort of wrestling with, isn't it? About how we can make those connections. Anybody else got any other comments on this one? Imam?
Yeah, sort of a question, if that's okay, because so you were saying about the 8 to 9 bullet points that they have, and then is that each bullet point that's then turned into a lesson, if I'm correct?
I think it depends on how many lessons we've got for each unit. So if we have like 6 lessons, we will just use 6 of them. Sometimes we might blend 1 or 2 of the bullet points. It literally depends on how much we can get out, like how much we can wring out the damp cloth of the syllabus.
Yeah. So then what sort of autonomy do they have to then, let's say if it is a faith that they don't pursue or don't represent, is there sort of an extent that they're given that this is how much research they should be doing into the subject matter so then they can represent it properly? Or is there any sort of way that they know that the references are correct? Or
there's not really much as part of the syllabus. I've got a copy of it if somebody wanted to look at it afterwards. I brought mine with me so you can sort of see what I'm talking about, really. There's not really that much depth, but it gives you pointers, and you're then able to go away and look up things in scriptures or whatever that you need to. And most of the topics will have information from many of the different faiths. So it gives you an opportunity to really. So what we definitely try and do is we make sure that every topic that we do, we're at least hitting 2 or 3 different faiths within that, and try and mix it up so kind of have that balance, which keeps us on our toes as well, and trying to learn about different bits of different faiths that we might not be so sure on. But yeah, there's for each bullet point, it's maybe 2 or 3 lines. There's not really much depth for each bullet point. So say, look at this, find this, look into that, maybe do a task on this. And that's the sort of thing I think that teachers are exactly looking for. It's that little bit of, here's a bullet point that sounds interesting. How can I teach it? Because it's sort of, there's an interesting bullet point. This is what I think students should know. And then we have to then think, well, okay, how do we get the point across? And sometimes that can be tricky, but that's a bit of it that I really enjoy, to be fair, trying to find that angle to it.
Yep, because it must be incredibly daunting, especially if it's a faith you have sort of 0 affiliation to. And then if there's a student of that faith, you really don't want to say, well, I mean, even if there isn't, you really never want to say the wrong thing. You don't want to reference something that isn't correct. And then if you are using the internet, which I presume most of them are, it's going to be incredibly difficult to sort of filter out and sift between what's correct and what's not. So if they don't have any sort of not prescribed to like to the T, but sort of good sort of framework to then what they then teach, I think sort of is essential, even if they are ascribed to that religion or not, I think.
I think that there are plenty of resources available from different hubs and RE hubs, which can you can get a lot of detail, which have been provided by different faiths. So there are resources available, but again, having some sort of links on whatever else we put out for the new agreed syllabus would be really, really useful, I think. But so often, if I have students in my class of different faiths, I always welcome if they say to me, "Didn't pronounce that right," or "That's not the way we said it." It keeps me on my toes, and I really enjoy that part of it as well.
No, thank you,
Ben.
You've just addressed exactly what I wanted to ask, which was about whether there were embedded links in the syllabus, which may be something to think about.
Thank you. I've made a note of that, because I think that's something that we need to reflect on going forward. Is where are people getting their sources of information from? I think that's quite useful. Colin.
Yep, thank you. Just a point of clarification for me being new to this lark, and that is that I noticed that 33% equally people of no religion, and I can't claim that humanism represents all of those 33%, but it is an assertive sort of no religion since it's a worldview. And I just want to catch up with how you are approaching that part of your students and teachers, and try to understand how myself and other people from humanism can help you fill potentially what are gaps.
Tak, have you got anything to add to that, or Joseph?
I think through SACRE we've been offered different trainings from understanding humanism. So not the teachers of York have been able to kind of have training on that, which is good. And then also at the same time, the agreed syllabus, along those bullet points for every single topic, there is always a bullet point of people of non-faith or with different worldviews may approach it this way. So there's always a pointer there. So again, people can use it as they used to. We tend to put one in there just to kind of give it that different balance of, well, here's 4 or 5 different faiths that, let's say we're talking about charity, what 4 or 5 different faiths, how they approach charity, what their view on having to give is, or willing to give. And then we sort of go, well, but if you're not religious, then people still give to charity, and we sort of explore humanists and other views that way.
Joseph?
Yeah, thanks, Bob. So I think one of the things that the diocese syllabus does quite well is it does expect us to explore and teach non-religious worldviews, and sometimes to put those against Christianity, Islam, and in our case, Arches Buddhism. The diocese gives us sort of a choice of those non-religious worldviews. So some of them are like ethical veganism, humanism. There is discussions about whether or not paganism could be included depending on your context. Now, as we in York do have a lot of humanists, as Colin's mentioned, that's the one that Arches we've chosen to do. And I think where we get our sources from as a church school, we're trying to be very mindful about the appropriate things. And Humanist UK, they've got a really good website. They've got a really sort of clear-cut place to get lots of information with good contact numbers. I just think, and I don't know how best to sort of distribute this information, but sometimes the more local communities obviously are going to have a better idea of how humanism looks in York. And sometimes that information, the actual who to get in touch with locally, is missing for, in my experience, non-religious worldview groups as compared to religious groups. Because I know I can go to the mosque or the synagogue or the local Catholic church, and there's likely somebody with a phone number written outside. I think as we're introducing things such as humanism and ethical veganism, it is a little tricky to find those local sources. So it might just be something worth putting in the back of our minds as to, can we sort of put together a list of trusted sources of, say, community leadership for those kind of groups?
Oh, do you want to come back?
Just come back quickly on that. Yeah, absolutely good. You obviously know about Humanist UK and their packages they've got for teacher training and things like that, lesson plans and things. In terms of locally, if you Google www.yorkhumanist.org.uk, you'll come across us and me, and you're welcome to make contact anytime that you need to.
Thank you, Colin. Thank you for those comments, Joe and Taco. That was really helpful. Penny?
I was just going to say that when we did this review before with Olivia Seymour, we couldn't add it in the syllabus, but we attached as kind of like an addendum to it, a list of local resources, which included York Interfaith and My Faith, who don't appear anywhere on the curriculum. So that was as a resource for teachers, knowing where to go, so that they know that, okay, My Faith does have a significant congregation here in in York. So where do we go and learn about them, or other faiths? And we did actually include the humanists, I'm sure, as part of that. So that's what we did last time. There's no, unless something has changed, I can't see why we couldn't do that again.
I think it's a point well made, Penny. We can just review and update the list of contacts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that's It's been really helpful. Dee?
Yeah, it was really to add to what Penny has just already said, because I knew that there was this list somewhere, and also to let people know that we do have representatives of the various pagan groups that are part of our interfaith group now, and they're active members. So we're stretching out our list of long list of people who are now represented within the City of York in interfaith.
Thanks, Dee. And I think that, yeah, one of my, well, it's been really helpful for me to sort of hear from the experts who are delivering it on the ground, but also different people of different faiths' views on how we can work together. And so the notes that I'd put down was there's a lot of support for the current syllabus. There's a little bit of worry about changing it too dramatically because of all the effort that requires from a teaching point of view. What support can we put in it? I think there's the list that we've spoke about with an updated contacts. And I wonder if we want to go a little bit of a step further. And as part of that contact list, there's a bit of a core offer from those groups of people as to what they could do to support schools, whether that was visits, whether that was come to us and see what we do. What does that look like for different groups? And I just feel like it's something we'd miss as an opportunity if we didn't do something like that. I've seen nods around the room. Does that sound something helpful, Taco? Would that be useful from your point of view? And that sort of addresses a little bit what we talked about earlier, Amar, about connecting our faith groups, our world belief groups with our school system. And then more specifically, like links to where to find out more information about a particular group, a trusted source of information that isn't a person, but is actually you could go to Humanist UK, for example, and that's a trusted source, because I think it's, as a person with no faith, I wouldn't know which to trust, which not to trust, what's the best, what's got everything in that has what we need. Yeah. So I think we need to think about how we would do that and attach it to any new syllabus. I'm going to give the last word on this one to Joseph.
Well, thanks, Bob. I'm honoured. I just wanted to echo that that's exactly what I think we need, like a Rolodex of names and places. But I also think it's a really good opportunity here to just like be role models to the kids and show that we as a community are working together to do this. I know one of the points we're going to make a little later is whether we've got the opportunity to talk about unity in RE. I mean, we can talk about it all we want, but here's a chance to actually do it.
Thank you. Yeah, and that's sort of, when I came into this position and I sat in this chair, I said, and back then I thought things were tough and people were really grumpy with each other. I'd like to say we've made it better, but I'm not sure we have actually, guys. We need to keep trying, don't we? But it is, for me, it's got to be about bringing different groups of people together to recognise and be able to talk to each other. Great. That's the school survey. I'm going to bring in Stephen now. Maxine, do you want to introduce Stephen and what his role is? And then Stephen.
Yeah, so I'm going to hand over to Stephen Pett in a moment. Stephen is a representative from RE Today, and we commission our current agreed syllabus from RE Today. Stephen and I met about a month ago, and we talked through some of the work that RE Today have been doing since we put our agreed syllabus, our current one, in place. And they've been doing some really exciting work with different local authorities around the country. Stephen explained that our agreed syllabus is actually quite elderly now. It's one of the older versions of the different options that RE Today have got. And I'm going to hand over to Stephen because he can explain some of the other options that there are, but obviously we have got strong support at the moment through the school survey that people are wanting to minimise change. But Stephen and I did discuss the fact that we can do an extension to the current syllabus to allow more work to take place if we are interested in another option that I got quite excited by when I spoke to Stephen. So I'll hand over to you now, Stephen.
Thanks very much, Maxine, and thank you, everybody. It's good to kind of be here with you. Yeah, so I work for RE Today, and so we're a charity, a non-profit organisation. We support RE teachers and RE teaching, and we do that in lots of ways, but supporting SACREs with agreed syllabus is one of them. And yes, so you've used an RE Today syllabus, well, 2016 for the first version of this one, and then a review 4 years ago now, and with some amendments and updates and upgrades to it. So that's the syllabus that you're using, and it's really encouraging to hear your teacher survey response, which is so positive about the syllabus and how supportive and helpful it is. So in many ways at RE Today, we'd just be really happy for you to carry on commissioning that and to keep going. But I don't know, Chair, how long you would like me to fill with this, because I've got plenty of information about 2 other models that are possibles for you to consider.
Stephen, that's a fantastic question to ask. And can I give you about 10 minutes, or maybe about 5 minutes on each, and then we'll have maybe 5 minutes for questioning on this. I think it's really worthwhile we take a bit of time on it. Is that acceptable to you?
That's great. So I might speak quite fast then, but then there'll be opportunity for questions afterwards. So I'm sharing information on the screen. Hopefully it will be clear. And I just want to outline.
Just fire 1 minute, Stephen.
I'm just getting the slides up, Stephen.
We're just bringing that up.
The slides are just coming up, Stephen.
Okay.
Now.
I've taken that moment to put mini cheddars in my mouth, so sorry if I sound a bit funny.
Perfect timing.
There's a massive moose on the screen now, which no one else can see, but you know. Oh,
we're getting there.
Perfect.
Okay, it's there now, Stephen.
Yeah, so I just thinking about giving you just an outline of the other 2 syllabuses and as possibilities, and then talk about what's in them and why, and then the support that's offered alongside them. And then, I'm happy for you to ask any questions. So at the moment, the syllabus you're using has a thematic approach, and Taco talked about that, the idea that most questions, you've got a key question, and then you look at it from 2, 3, probably not more than 3 perspectives, religions and a non-religious worldview, but maybe 3 or 4. And it's around those broad themes of believing, expressing and living that help make the structure of the syllabus. So that's the one you've got, and I'm assuming that generally you're reasonably familiar with that. Now, we've got 2 other options. One is a bit more up to date than, at least it was devised more recently than the one that you're currently using, which is a more systematic approach. So rather than looking at one question with lots of different religions, it says, well, we're going to look at usually 2 religions in a year and through the year, and then in the summer term do a systematic study where you compare those 2 religions and bring in other perspectives as well. So maybe a third religion or non-religious worldviews as well. So it's systematic, thematic is the kind of model. And the idea that you have a set of core concepts for each religion, and you go into those in increasing depth as you go through the school. So that's the sort of systematic approach, contrasting your thematic one. And then the current one that we're developing now is a result of the changes that have been in RE over the last few years towards a religion and worldviews approach. And so there's a national statement of entitlement in a handbook produced by the RE Council, and the national content standard as well from the RE Council. And they may well be influential in the curriculum and assessment review, which is the other thing which is part of this discussion, even though we don't know the results of that quite yet. And that one, this religion and worldviews approach says, here's the stuff, the content. We want people to understand this, but we're going to also want them to think about how they are engaging with that content, the methods and tools they're using, and also think about the position of the pupils, their personal worldviews as well. And that will be, many pupils will be non-religious, but there'll be other religious traditions represented among the pupils in your schools as well. So those are the thematic, systematic, and original worldviews approach are the sort of three models, and these are the coloured ones, the two new sort of options. I'm just going to go through the systematic approach and outline what the syllabus looks like and what it contains. It's set up, I mean, just practically it's laid out to meet sort of Ofsted's interest in intent, implementation, and impact. It's got a principal aim where we want pupils to explore what people believe and then what difference it makes to how they live, so that then they can gain knowledge, understanding, and skills to handle questions raised by religion or worldviews, reflecting on their own ideas and ways of living. So there's stuff to know. And there's also opportunity for them to reflect for themselves. So we break that down in the syllabus to say we want pupils to make sense of a range of beliefs, then to understand the impact, and then to make connections. That making connections in their learning, in RE and beyond RE, but also make connections with their own lives as well. So that beliefs, impact, connections sort of model runs through the syllabus. We got programs of study in the same way that the current syllabus has for different phases. And the content is, as with your current syllabus, is explored through key questions. And so the key questions then open content out, but they limit it as well, because you're not saying, well, I'm just going to study Islam and say, here's all of Islam to study. It's like, I've got a question, and that obviously limits the content you have to cover. Now, so there's a set of questions, and you may not be able to read them because there's quite a few on the screen, but they're progressive from early years through to Key Stage 3. They get more complex and deep. And on the left-hand side, there's a set of core concepts that pupils will encounter and again as they grow older, and these are big ideas that they're going to explore and understand in increasing depth and nuance as they go through the school. This syllabus has got this is also a sort of updated version. This syllabus has got some questions that actually you've got in your reviewed current syllabus. So you've got a question about what can be done to reduce racism, and what do religious and non-religious worldviews teach about caring for the earth. That's all. Those newer ones are also incorporated into this syllabus as well. And there's an opportunity for a systematic study of humanism as well. What does it mean to be a humanist in Britain today? As well as a thematic one, what matters most to humanists and Christians. So there's a little bit more pointing up about non-religiousness. So those of you who are using the syllabus, well, for the primary anyway, may recognise those. So these are additional units that might be chosen by schools to include. Now that teaching, so that's the stuff. That's the how we're going to explore it through key questions. It's all done through using this teaching and learning approach. We want people to make sense of beliefs and the varieties that there are, and how they're understood, and how they're expressed through sources of authority, and how people interpret them. Then say if people believe these things, then what difference does it make to how they actually live? And then pupils then make connections, they reflect on, they have critical insight into what they've been learning, and they're thinking about whether their own lives, their own understanding of the world is connected to what they've been learning. So beliefs, impact, connections runs all the way through. Now, the one thing that we've emphasized in this is that in this syllabus is that line there. We want pupils so that pupils can gain the skills needed to handle questions. And that is relatively new focus. because Ofsted in 2021 talked about ways of knowing. They want pupils not to just know the stuff, but also know how they know. And we've got these icons which talk about the tools or methods that pupils might use in order to find out the answer to the questions. Right? You can see some of them there. It might be to do with texts and stories, might be to do with observation, it might be looking at data, sort of sociological data, and then think about their own position and their own conclusions as well. So we've woven those in through the syllabus as well, the ways of knowing. And it looks like this. So Taco talked about the page plan, which has got sort of bullet points. So this is similar in that we've got a unit page. There's a key question at the top. There's a reminder of that principal aim. There's some unit outcomes to do with belief, impact, connections. You can see the color coding there. That's what we want pupils to achieve through this unit. Then we've got the suggested unit content. Again, there's bullet points down the right-hand side. There are a few more words than there were in the current York syllabus. And then down the middle, we've got the ways of knowing, the icons, the ones saying this is the kind of method that is being used at this point. So that's again, that will help teachers with Ofsted thinking as well. And then there's end of phase outcomes. So all the end of unit outcomes that you can see on the left, they all lead towards these end of phase outcomes. So there's a sort of progression through the syllabus. Curriculum time recommendations, same as you've got currently. Actually, the religions and non-religious worldviews are also the same as in York at the moment, but there's scope and space for bringing in others, particularly if they're in the local area. So if there's a school community, then that there's space for them to bring in, and also just pointing up again the idea of humanism as a recognised non-religious worldview. The syllabus incorporates a planning process, which you may be familiar with from the York one, and then some long-term plans, which says recommending systematic, thematic model. We've also got some mixed age class model plans as well that will help teachers to think about how they make sense of this. And so this syllabus then takes into account some of the religion worldviews approach, the new approach, by offering guidance and at the training at a launch, a lot of talk about that. And then it incorporates the idea of ways of knowing that Ofsted instigated it in 2021. One of the other things that's a big support for this is that RE Today, NATRE have produced a complete set of resources with PowerPoints and lesson plans and sticky knowledge quizzes and vocab lists and knowledge organizers, which schools can buy into if they want to. But it basically completely supports that in the way that the Oak resources provide resources, but they don't meet the particular questions that we've got in this syllabus. And if schools are using Understanding Christianity, then many of the Christianity questions are supported by this as well. And actually, Joseph was talking about the diocesan syllabus, and the diocesan syllabus and this syllabus are much closer than the diocesan syllabus and the current York syllabus. There's much more overlap between them. So that's the option of the systematic approach. The religion worldviews approach takes into account these conversations that have been going on since 2018, when the Commission on RE, independent commission set up by the RE Council of England and Wales, gave its final report in 2018, setting a vision for the way forward. There have been lots of involvement in seeing, well, what does that mean? Which culminated in a 3-year project from the RE Council, which led to the production of this handbook for curriculum writers, which sets out how you put a religion worldviews approach into practice. So, I just so you know, I led that project for the RE Council from 2021 to 2024, and I wrote that handbook as well. There have been developments in use of disciplines, disciplinary approaches in RE through Ofsted as well. And this Ofsted report in 2024 suggested that Ofsted was expecting schools to know about ways of knowing and know about disciplines, which your current syllabus doesn't talk about. Also, you talked about demographics, and the census demographics show the great increase in non-religious people in the census, and obviously among pupils the number is higher. This is the cerise color of the people who are non-religious according to the census, but among young people it's much higher than that. And so even though, I mean, there's 22 million people say they have no religion, but in practice, probably more. Fewer people identify directly as humanist, actually, than they had in the previous census, but there's no denying just the scope of non-religiousness and humanism as being an example of an organized version of non-religion. So those demographic changes, this is what's inspired our religion worldview service model. I've taken some examples from the work I'm doing with Gloucestershire at the moment, but which will form the basis of this wider religion worldviews model. It's based on the handbook I mentioned just now. At the heart of the handbook is this National Statement of Entitlement, which says these are the criteria you use. This is the tool you're going to use to select content and to drive your teaching and learning process. And that says, look, there's a realm we're going to explore, realm of religion and worldviews and various features of them. And of course, any exploration you go on, you're going to need to think about where you're heading, where you want to get to, how you're going to get there, and choose the right tools for doing that as well. So I've got this question, what's the best way of answering it? How am I going to find out the answers? But also, as you're exploring, then you're also thinking about how you are doing this. And so what difference who you are makes to how you find things out and how you respond to the content. So that model then can start with the content in the middle of religion worldviews and move out towards the personal worldviews of pupils, or it could start with the personal worldviews of pupils and then move into exploring those. So it sort of drives a teaching and learning process. So we go, again, a principal aim. We want pupils to understand how worldviews influence people's lives, including their own, through the study of religious and non-religious worldviews, so that they better understand themselves and the world around them and become better equipped to contribute to and flourish in society. And so earlier you were talking about the need for unity and to help pupils and teachers to think about what difference that can make. Well, this is part of that aim, really, about to be able to contribute to and flourish in society. And we've broken that down into 3 as well. You see the color coding, how worldviews influence people, engage with religious and non-religious worldviews in thoughtful and scholarly ways. We want people to understand themselves and others and their personal worldviews better. Now, that balances what the RE Council's materials talk about, organised worldviews, the traditions that have developed over centuries maybe, and then the individual personal worldviews of people within those wider traditions. So the relationship between them, not everyone follows all the teachings of all the traditions in exactly the same way. Now, the teaching and learning approach is on the screen there. Obviously they're cogs, so if you move one, you move the others as well. So this is about that influence, understanding the influence, engaging in scholarly ways, and understanding themselves as well. And so that runs through the syllabus. We've got the ways of knowing, icons as well. I mentioned those earlier. What tools are we going to use? What methods are we going to use to answer this question? What's the best way of finding out? So the contents, we've tried to, in this syllabus, we've tried to write more, keep all the sort of guidance out of the way in the appendices. So this is shorter than the current York one, but guidance there about the teaching and learning approach, and then we've got programs of study. The religion and worldviews are actually, again, the same as you've currently got, although there's scope for optional additional units as well. I'll show you in just a moment. So we've got core concepts, we've got a spiral curriculum again, this religion and worldviews approach, and also an outline which says this is why we're choosing this long-term plan, a sort of curriculum narrative that teachers need to be able to understand why you're going to do this unit first and then move on to that one, and how teaching that one will lead to the next one and how it builds them for their future learning. So that curriculum narrative is, we provide those. We've got the Christian, Hindu, Jewish, Muslim worldviews and non-religious worldviews in primary, but we also have got a selection of additional or alternative or optional unit questions as well. So that, again, well, the question is whether SACRE decides and says, yeah, we want to have a Buddhist and a Sikh optional extra unit, in which case we'll then help you by writing a sample long-term plan with those in it. Or you might say, throw them all in and it's up to schools to decide. So that will be a decision you might want to take. So we've got these sample long-term plans with mixed age plans as well. And again, the balance is systematic, thematic. So that still is a bit bit of a change from what you've currently got. And those questions then are much more contextual. They include this interpretive element. So why do these people behave like this? Why do they believe this? And then what's it got? You were talking about what is to be a humanist in York earlier as well, and people in York are going to know that better. And so this is about what does it mean in your context, in your area, in your city. Recognizing that being a Christian or Jewish or Muslim home, it won't all be the same. Not all Christians will live the same way. So there's more of that awareness of the fact that people practice differently, and also to weigh up how people may do things differently. So evaluate the processes people come to in order to decide how to live. So those are the kinds of features of the questions. There are programs of study. There's your York thematic syllabus. That's the page plans that Taco, you were talking about earlier. This is for Key Stage 1, but the process is the same with the bullet points on the right. In this syllabus, the unit outlines, the statutory ones are in the syllabus, and they give on the left-hand side, they give an overview, a sort of story of the unit. And on the right-hand side, they connect it to the statement of entitlement, that national content standard, and says, well, these are the strands of that national content standard that this unit is exploring. And then we've got these non-statutory double-page plans, which have a page on curriculum, a double column on teaching and learning, and a column on assessment. And so we've got the curriculum rationale. This is why we're doing this. This is the connection to the statement of entitlement. A sequence of lessons. Here are 6 lessons which say this is what you could do. These are non-statutory, so people could amend it and change it. But it's saying this, we're recommending this 6 lessons. Taki was talking about this suggestion earlier as well. We've got a curriculum sequence that says this is the content that you might put into those 6 lessons. Then some suggested teaching and learning activities for each of the lessons, including the ways of knowing, and then some high-level outcomes. If pupils have learned all this stuff, then here are some of the good things you might assess them on as you get towards the end of the unit. For Key Stage 3, we've got 22 questions at the moment, which obviously way too many for a Key Stage 3 curriculum, but schools could then select from them.
Hello. Just saying you can wrap up soon so we can have a bit of a discussion. That'd be great. Thanks.
And so there's just a single page plan for secondaries. There's data for stuff, special needs schools on assessment, time. It's been used in this model. We've done a soft launch in Gloucestershire. It's been extremely well received. I'll send you this feedback as well so you can see it, because obviously we're running out of time. And they've also asked for some extra materials, which we're considering how we provide those materials for them. It's also supported by, to a certain extent, by the Understanding Christianity resources. They sort of sit in the background. And we've got a massive new resource called Understanding Muslims, Understanding Islam, which directly support the questions on Islam. Okay, I'm sorry. I once I started, it was hard to stop.
No, don't apologise at all. That was really, really helpful. And we're all up on the screen there. And I think you did remarkably well to get through everything you did in that space of time. And I hope that for those who are not teachers in the room, you sort of maybe appreciate a little bit about what goes into actually planning a lesson. So this meeting is, to be honest, scheduled to finish at 7 o'clock, and I don't intend to run over too massively, but I just want to talk you through what my thoughts are about how we proceed from this. So, the question that I think we probably do want to get a steer on tonight is, do we delay making this decision by a year, as is an option, in order to fully explore this and also embed some of the things that we've talked about around unity and things like that in this properly? And then what I would like to do, and Stephen sort of mentioned this at the end, is I'd like to get sort of the information, the resources that he's sort of presented to us tonight, and anything he thinks is relevant as soon as possible, so that we can share that with members so that we can then have our next meeting in January exclusively given over to discussing the positives and negatives of the different syllabus, any specific questions we've got, and I'd hope that potentially, Stephen, you might be able to attend that meeting as well. They're my thoughts. And does anyone have a problem with that process we go forward? Does that seem reasonable? Thank you. Maxine, do you have anything?
Yeah, I just wanted to tackle on, you know, because I'm very conscious that we've got feedback from teachers saying they really like the current syllabus, but I'm also very attracted by the fact that I know that we're using a syllabus that is now getting quite elderly. And is there an opportunity to bring teachers together to look at the other two options and really think about some of the advantages of those?
Yeah, I think we're going to have till about 10 past on this, so short answers are really helpful for now.
Yeah, I was completely agreeing with you on that, actually. I think if we have the delay for a year to really kind of get into it, we'll look at it sort of like a working group. We can sort of look at all the different options, and I'm not saying that we take a year to decide, but make a quick decision as we can, as quick as we can, and then much more of a staggered rollout. So we almost kind of like blend the two. So then by the time it starts, staff have either got resources or they know what's coming. They know which bits might be the same, which bits they might not need to change. Because looking at it, it seems that there will be certain elements that you can kind of keep and tweak a bit, and there might be certain elements you might have to completely, you know, throw out and start again with something new. And I think it's just reduce a bit of that anxiety to sort of say, you know, it's going to be like this, is going to be staggered. We're here to hold your hand and help out a little bit. And I think that hopefully will calm some nerves, I think. So if you were to go into something new, obviously people would get a little bit anxious about that. But if we take that year, that little blend, I think that will make a big difference for staff.
Thank you. Ben?
So picking up on Maxine's point, if we were to have the support of RE today in developing the next stage curriculum, I just wanted to understand whether a modernised version of a thematic approach is an option that they can support us with if we were to decide to do that, or whether or not basically we've got these two different options and we have to choose between those two if we want them to support us.
That's a really good technical question, Ben. Stephen, can you answer that?
Yes, we'd be very happy to work with you to do a sort of bespoke update. The other two are, I mean, the other two are models that are effectively kind of off the shelf, and so therefore they're the first one, the systematic one, would be available to do next year if you wanted it, and yeah, so yeah, it'd be possible. I mean, it would be a question of how much change you want and how long it would take us, and therefore how much it would cost.
Thank you. I think then an additional thing that we need circulating is the current syllabus as well. That has to be in there so we can do a bit of a comparison ourselves before.
I would find it really helpful as a non-teacher to understand why we're moving away from or why RE today have moved away from a thematic approach, which personally I quite like and understand.
Yeah, I think that's Stephen, can you answer that briefly? Possibly, probably not.
Yes, I mean, people, there are loads of different approaches in RE. I mean, so it's possible to teach in lots of different ways, and obviously the thematic one has been very successful for you. We produced a systematic one because some schools were saying they were finding their pupils were getting confused between different traditions, and the religion and worldviews approach, which will allow for some thematic, thinking. The religion worldviews approach is because of that long process since 2018, which said really we need to include the position and worldviews of pupils within the subject rather than a sort of peripheral to it, and also the need to be more academically up to date with what is going on in theology, religious studies, philosophy departments. So that's the religion worldviews change.
Thank you. That was a very concise answer. Well done. Councillor Wilson.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Just my first thoughts is a little bit of nerves around the fact that teachers who are, as we know, very overworked and stretched, liking something and us changing it really concerns me, given that that's why we've done the survey and that's the feedback that we've got. I think, like Ben, and on the theme of unity, I like the thematic bit where we're looking at what we have in common. That feels like a really positive place to be. So I do have some concerns about that. I suppose on the flip side, the other thing that occurs is that the feedback from teachers teaching the subjects is that having more readily available resources, and that might be more possible with one of these off-the-shelf models, would be a good thing. So yeah, that's kind of my initial thoughts to it.
Thank you. And for me, the question that's going through my head when I have chance to sit down and look at what we currently do, and then option 1 and option 2, is what I said earlier. How does it make it easier for children to know about each other and be able to talk to each other? Right. That's the question I'm thinking about. And whichever one of those answers that question best is the one that I'll probably aim for. Does anybody ever have any final comments who hasn't spoken yet? Councillor Knight, and then I'll come to you, Colin.
Thank you, Chair. A couple of thoughts occurred to me, and I absolutely take on board the strains on teaching. We know that any change, and thinking about the fact that in the survey people have said, you know, they like the system, they like how it is. But I can't help thinking, you know, if faced with a choice between doing what you're familiar with and, oh, and there's this other thing over here, but we don't have any information yet, people are generally going to go for the one they're familiar with. So I don't think that of itself should be a reason for not exploring. I think the advantage of giving ourselves a year to properly look at it and think on it is that that also gives us a year to bring teachers along with us. And it occurred to me that our project or proposed project of a conference would actually be the ideal target for bringing people together, presenting the options. We could workshop it, we can have, you know, people from RE Today, we could have people coming to specialists, and that could be a good forum and a way of bringing people on. So I'd be very much in favour of, let's give it a year, let's look at all the information and take it from there.
Thanks, Councillor. I think the idea of was flipping it on its head, not having a conference to say, look, this is what you're doing now, but you know, how do we do that would work for what we're looking at here. Colin?
Firstly, I quite agree with what you just said, Councillor Knight. It seems to be a sensible approach, and your approach too. I think the year is right. My first reaction in my ignorance is that the thematic approach really lends itself to engaging people to think what other people think. And the other approach, the second one, whatever structured approach, whatever it's called, is more academic. And so I see an age difference in my mind between the two approaches. That's obviously for discussion as the year goes by, but that's my first reaction.
Thank you. Very small. Go on.
So as we go forward, can we talk about options 1, 2, and 3? Option 1 being a development of our current model, because otherwise we assume we're not doing that.
Yeah, no, I think that does make sense. And I think as well as bringing in, if we're going to have a conference, that we're going to bring in RE teachers to talk about what we want and what works and what doesn't work. I want to make sure faiths are represented in that conference as well, in whatever capacity that looks like, and you know, all the different groups and people that we represent here, because I think it's really important that that view is put forward as well, and obviously sort of non-religious beliefs included in that as well, because I think we almost need that sort of expert side of things as well in this. Okay, so I've heard various people say we're sort of comfortable with delaying change for a year. I've not heard anybody object to my idea of January's meeting being exclusively about this, and potentially Stephen as a bit of an expert witness to talk us through what basically to answer questions that members have. From my point of view, what I would like to happen is that we get the current scheme and then the 2 new schemes in whatever format that can be shared with us out to members as soon as possible. And then please take a look at it, take your time to think about it, and form your opinions, your thoughts and your questions in advance of January's meeting. And possibly what might be fairer for Stephen is if I think what I'll do is I'll send an email to everyone in maybe December and ask people to respond to that with their thoughts and questions, so we can maybe summarize it a bit and that will probably be a bit more productive and we'll get more out of it. Does anyone disagree with that approach? Thank you. Stephen, are you happy with that approach?
Yes, I mean, definitely to take it further, RE Today can extend the license for a year. That's no problem. I know that. Well, I can talk with Maxine about that. And I think that talking in more detail in January is good. By then I can have thought about what revisions might be undertaken to your current syllabus to keep the thematic approach, but make it one that fits with the national content standard. By then we will know what the curriculum and assessment review says, so we'll know what direction things are going.
That's really helpful. And are you comfortable in sharing materials with us in advance? I assume you've got materials you can share with us in advance, Stephen.
Yeah, we've got the systematic one, I think, is available. We'd give you a link to access it online for the immediate future. The other one, the original worldviews one, isn't available in that form yet, but it may well be in time for you to look at it in January. So I'll try and work that out.
Thanks. I think even if it's just, to be honest, the PowerPoint you presented tonight, that'd be a good start for us as well, just to have that information, so that we can start to form opinions. Okay. I'm going to bring that item to a close now, and I am conscious of time, and I'm just going to sort of whiz us around a little bit. So the NASACRE News issue 1, I'm going to take as read because that is attached. So that's item 7. The update from Interfaith, we have had, has everybody got this? Yes, I think everybody's got a copy of this on the table. This has come from Penny. This is about Interfaith Week. Penny, is there anything you briefly want to say about that? Just on the microphone.
Beg your pardon.
Fine.
Just as an opportunity to, if we're looking for unity and understanding, then it's an opportunity for us to do that. And some people engage in Interfaith Week that we don't necessarily hear about too much at Interfaith in the year, as well as our regular support. So it's just an opportunity. If we could circulate that to the schools, that'd be really helpful. It's a free opportunity. I know it doesn't fit with a school day, but there might be some resources there or some information that triggers like, oh, okay, so we have someone there, or we have this group, or perhaps we can be in touch, as well as they're raising the profile of there being an interfaith group in the city as well.
Could you send me an e-copy of it so we can send it out to school? We've got one, right? Okay.
Fine.
Yeah, we'll get that shared.
Okay, that'd be really helpful,
Yeah.
and I think just helps with the things that we're discussing about being unified and understanding one another. And our next monthly meeting we will be looking at the work of Interfaith and the importance and relevance of it in light of the challenging things that have been happening in York and elsewhere.
Thank you. Okay. RE teachers, views of RE teachers. Now, this item, we put this on specifically because we wanted to talk about how what opportunity there is to talk about unity in RE lessons, and also maybe more widely in school. What I don't want to do is do this item disservice by going through it in about 2 minutes, right? So I'm just going to invite anybody to maybe articulate why we think that this needs to be on our radar, what people wanted to talk about with this item tonight. But then actually, I'm going to go back to what I said about that's what I want our curriculum, our syllabus to be focused on. So I think that can then form a bigger part of when we're discussing that syllabus more widely. So has anybody got anything that's a burning point that they need to say tonight? But as I say, I'm mindful, I don't want to rush through this. Ben?
So I'm conscious that I'm probably guilty for kickstarting this. And I just wanted to flag that I'm not sure that the word unity on its own does what we were wanting to address. So this came from the discussion around the flags, and therefore I felt that there was a responsibility to help people understand what we meant by patriotism, what we meant by British values, English values, and that was a discussion that was helpful to have in schools, not least because I was picking up lots of children having this discussion for themselves, and we need to help them with it. So I think that description of why we wanted to go into this discussion, and indeed actually how different faith communities were responding to seeing the flags. I'm very conscious of, finally, because I'm always behind time, started watching Blue Lights, and I'm really conscious that there's all the flags hung from the flags around North Belfast as the responders charge around, wondering why, therefore, some people might have a difficulty with that, why my community has difficulties with seeing flags in those ways, why some members of the mosque might feel intimidated as they begin to surround the mosque itself, surrounding the refugee hotel. And I think that that's the discussion we really need to have, and it would be useful to also hear from others outside this room around that discussion, but we've got to deal with this within schools.
Thank you, Ben. And yeah, I fully accept that the item description didn't do it justice, which is why I wanted to sort of give you a chance to speak to it. Does anybody else have any thoughts about that, or are you happy that we put that? Because I agree that I think the new syllabus that we're looking at is our way to deal with the wrong word, but address the issues of unity between communities. And that's what, as a SACRE committee, I feel we can do to support that. Ben, I can see you're itching.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm itching. I'm nervous that, having agreed with the commitment that the next meeting is focused very much on curriculum, and I think that's right, that this isn't a discussion that waits at the end for the publication of a new curriculum, which could be 2 years out. Are we able to at least ask RE teachers or schools more broadly how they are approaching, if at all, the issues raised by the flags? Let's ask the question that we actually want to ask rather than dress it up in other language.
Cheers. Maxine, I was going to say, you've obviously speak to schools more directly. What have they been saying about it?
They're finding it very, very difficult. And we did have a discussion with the maintained heads on the back of the conversation that we'd had in the informal meeting. They know it's something that there needs to be a careful and supported discussion around. They do feel that they need help with that in order to get it right, and I know they are looking for some help with it. Very, very definitely. I'm sure you're seeing the same thing, Taco, in your school. yeah, it is one of those things that we're reflecting on in terms of how we can help in that space.
I think following on from that, I went down to the mosque last week to one of the sort of community events. Brilliant event, but it was really specifically to talk about how we can get the mosque to engage, how I can help, basically, how we can help to get the mosque and the community engaged with the schools. And I'm not putting words in your mouth. Please feel free to, if I say something wrong, to tell me off. But that whole purpose of connecting communities, again, is something that I think there's two things we've got then, isn't there? There's the syllabus, and I do think longer term, that is definitely our core remit of making sure that we get that right and that we do everything we can to make sure it is about that belonging and connected communities. But there's also, how do we, in the more immediate term, connect those communities literally by getting different groups in schools to talk to people, to talk about these issues, because I think schools are struggling with this, and it is a challenge, and it will always be a challenge that certain groups of the community are preying on the fact that it is a challenge and it's difficult for us to talk about. So that is also happening as well. Dee, you've got your hand up.
Yes, I have really. It's to reiterate what Ben's been saying. One of the reasons that we have decided to have an open discussion about it in our November Interfaith session was because we would love to see if the City of York councillors could bring more of the organisations that are likely to be at the front of supporting both members of the public, teachers, anybody about the issue concerning the flags, but also to work with the organisations like York City of Sanctuary, York Human Rights, Refugee Action York, Interfaith. There's only the council that can really bring that amount of people together, and members of SACRE as well, because we're all involved in this. You can't pass by without it affecting you, and I know so many people that have been affected by it. So I just wondered if it's a bigger picture, whether something is something that the councillors could take back to their council meetings for them to address it in a larger way and do it sooner, as Ben suggests, not waiting until next January for it, because it's not going to go away now, and people are still getting very concerned, and they want to know that we're trying to support them in any way we can.
Thank you, Dee. And I know that there is, for example, there's a Unity event, a festival event happening at the weekend that I know various different organisations have been invited to attend, and that's taking place on Saturday afternoon, I think, the 18th, is that Saturday? In the city centre. There was also a rally last week, which I know that the leader attended, spoke at, a number of councillors did as well, to show that we are better together, and that, quite frankly, we won't allow and won't stand for racism in our city. And that is sadly what these flags are being used to stoke. Ben.
The discussion which the flags have provoked is around what we mean by British values. So when I challenged the flaggers over what they were doing, they said, we're just being proud of British values. And then when you ask them, and what values are those? That's where the discussion gets actually quite interesting and useful in schools, because I'm proud of my British values, and they're not the same as some of the people choosing to try and frighten and divide our community by putting up flags wish to express by them. But if the values are the values that I hold dear, then I'm very proud of the flag, and I'm very happy for it to fly on proper flagpoles. And I don't know how schools are approaching that, because that's our job. But that's the urgent discussion, because it matters in particularly secondary schools where, it can be a bit of a joke. And I don't. I'm sorry, I'm looking at Taco.
I want to just dispute that. In the sense that schools are not. This is not a joke.
Not
schools,
not for the schools. I think it can be for individual pupils until.
right. Okay.
Stepping out.
But yeah, I think
I
we need
withdraw if you.
yeah, I think we need to be really clear that schools are very much taking this very seriously and quite worried about it in lots of ways. And I know that a number of schools will be working on how they embed what British values are and what they by default are not in curriculum, and that might not actually sit within the RE lessons. You know, from personal experience, for example, we are looking at how we embed the British values in our science lessons that I'm teaching. So I genuinely was working on the idea of how do I get a lesson on cell biology to talk about tolerance the other day. In the end, I thought there's no point in trying to do that because we have to make it appropriate, right? But that is something that is happening in schools. And I wonder if then we need a bit more clarity from our schools as to what they're currently doing and what specifically they're concerned about. Maxine, I'm looking to you, maybe if you can get a steer on that, and also what they would like from us. They're the three questions for me. Does anybody else have any comments, thoughts on this one? Thank you, Colin.
You're welcome. To me, the issue is about community leadership. It's about the fact that the forces who are against us, who are trying to divide our communities, have got leadership and they're loud. Our leadership is mixed because we are a mixed group with different people and elected representatives and people of faith, etc. It's a question of that messy leadership that we have, getting their act together and getting out there and getting much more assertive in what we think community is all about and how people should be with each other. So I think it's a bigger issue than SACRE, though SACRE obviously is our concern here. And I do think unless we fill the vacuum that we're falling into, we're going to lose out. And what we're here to represent is going to lose out. I think it's a big issue.
Yeah, just quickly. No, it is definitely obviously a massive issue, and I know some schools obviously struggle with it more than some. But it has to be tackled. I think primary schools have to absolutely, because you'll find year 5, year 6 students that then transition to year 7 and have similar views, or maybe it comes from wherever else in the community. But I think schools definitely have to tackle it. Primary schools, secondary schools. But then obviously there's also, like you were mentioning, how you try to adapt your science lessons, and then there'd be teachers who might not have that sort of mindset and might think, okay, well, maybe it's a PSHE sort of subject for them to tackle, or maybe it's an RE subject, it's for them to tackle, and I won't do it. So it's sort of, like you said, we need to sort of acknowledge what the teachers actually, like, what are they facing? What are the issues that they're facing? Because I can speak for what issues the congregation are facing, but it's not going to be similar to what the teachers are facing from, like, the children themselves and the pupils themselves. So we need to realize what that is. Then I think we can address it properly and effectively, efficiently as well. Yeah.
Thank you. And I think that, I think final word on this is I think that it needs to really be clear that tolerance, understanding, the rule of law, liberty, that they run through us all as a core, and that, I suppose, is what does connect us, Colin. He said we are a messy leadership. That's how leadership should work, but there's those common values that we have, and let's be clear, some of the things that have been happening around flags are meant to distract us and divide us, and it's really frustrating. And I hope that we can agree here that we have those common values running through us, and that we all want to get the same outcome. We just need to find a way of getting there, whilst remembering that the other side, so to speak, for want of a better phrase, is very organised, and we need to combat that. So we had 3 questions there, Maxine, about what are schools seeing, how can we help, and a 3rd question that I can't remember.
What are they concerned about?
What are they concerned about? What are they seeing? Yeah, what are they seeing? What are they doing? How can we help? Thank you. Thank you for that. It's a difficult issue to work through. Imam?
Just lastly, sort of, obviously it's a very corporate value of being like bureaucratic and then sort of taking our time with things like, obviously it is a very immediate issue. How quickly sort of can we get the answers to those questions and then bring them into practice as well?
I mean, Taco, it depends on how quickly people can answer from schools, because everyone's really busy doing everything else that they're also doing. But I think if Maxine can sort of send those questions out to the relevant people. In fact, we do have a meeting of schools forum at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. So could you possibly, sorry, Maxine, because I'm not available to do it, but I think asking that there.
Yeah, the question was asked in the York Schools and Academies Board as well a few weeks ago.
So
yeah.
if we can maybe add that as an AOB for tomorrow morning's meeting to do that, then at least we can get something relatively quick. And then if that can be fed back to us, we can have a bit of a discussion, maybe outside of a meeting, about what we can offer and what we can help with. Excellent. I'm going to move us on because we're half an hour over. I'm really sorry. So there's been a lot. The renewal of the SACRE development plan. I think that's there. We can take that.
Yeah, there's
read.
just various bits of it that I've taken the outlines that was discussed and you provided some notes, Bob. I think it's just it's just putting in some of the specific details which we can do outside of this meeting.
So I think if, as an action, myself and you, Maxine, sit down and talk about that, we'll bring that back for conclusion and sign off. Ben?
Very sorry. The one thing I was going to add is where we talk about improving standards in relation to the conversation we had earlier this evening, quality information and promoting quality information is something we should have an action related to.
Okay. Does anybody else have any comments on that? Or are they happy with us to essentially look at it again, bring it back for final sign off at the next meeting? Perfect. Thank you. Then I shall move us on to correspondence, complaints. Anything? Nothing? Thank you.
Can I just, I was contacted for the first time by one of our heads of RE to say that for the first time in a long time, parents were asking for children to be withdrawn from RE. She did ask whether that was any other schools were seeing that. I did contact TACO and TACO said that you weren't seeing it, were you? So I'm hoping it's just an isolated incidence of that.
Cheers. And I think that goes back to a point we made at a previous meeting, was parents and people clearly don't know how to withdraw or what the process is. So maybe, again, feeding back to schools, and I think we put that as an action in the previous meeting, to remind schools of the process that they're meant to follow in that situation. Okay, any other business? I feel we've covered a lot. Okay, our next meeting is in January. We haven't got a date for that as of yet, but when we do have a date, that will be circulated. We just need to check a few diaries and send those around. You've also got dates for March and for April as well in there as well. Thank you all very much. Good work. That'll do us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Thanks.